I'm going to show off the new sharing flow inside of Netlify Graph from the CLI and backend perspective. Now, the goal is to help you get started with a new API very, very quickly, or even if you're familiar with an API, to discover new capabilities inside of that API simply by searching a shared community library of operations. Here, I have a normal Next.js application with Netlify Graph already set up and a generated handler. And if I go ahead and look at my current Netlify Graph, you can see I have a single operation here, which will fetch some details about a canonical license. And this is nice, but maybe I want to know what else is available inside of GitHub. To do that, I can go ahead and use the operation search functionality. And this will take a look at what services I have enabled, in this case just GitHub, and it will show me some examples that have been contributed for that. I can kind of search through them, and maybe I want to find something with files, and I can see that I can upsert a file or get the text content of a file. I like that. So if I look at this, I can see the description. It says that get the textual value of a field, branch and file. It kind of tells me how to use this, this operation, and this looks good to me. So I'll go ahead and incorporate this. And now back in my code, if I go ahead and autocomplete, I can see that in addition to my original licenses query, I have a get file text content query. And if I hover over that, I have this excellent example of how to use this, so that whenever I get to something that is maybe a bit tricky, like the branch and file path, it tells me actually how it should be formatted. So in this case, I'll go ahead and pull from main, and I just want to read the readme.md. And the result should work the same as everything else. If I come in here, I get autocomplete all the way down to the object itself, and I can hover over this, and I get this lovely docstring as well. And this description goes even to the variables. I can hover each of these variables and I get a description of what should be inside of there, as well as that human level of support here. I'll add a few more here. Maybe I want to update the user profile. I see that there is a my unresolved issues. That sounds pretty good for me. I'll go ahead and import that as well. And now back in my code, you can see that I have all those available for me. I can update my user profile mutation, get that great description here, and it all just works. Now this also works for services that I haven't enabled. So maybe I'm curious about the Salesforce possibilities. So I'll go ahead and add the service here, and I'll say, show me the operations for Salesforce. And there are fewer here, but I can say maybe I want to know about the opportunities, and this is going to list some opportunities in Salesforce, which is a very common thing to want to do. And so I think, okay, this looks interesting. I'll go ahead and import this. And this notices that I actually don't have Salesforce enabled, and it will prompt me to automatically enable it. And once again, back in my code, I have this fetch Salesforce opportunity. I see there are no variables required. And once again, I should get this nice autocomplete all along the way, including type safety, so that I have everything in here, expected revenue, name, probability, stage name. And again, I get just lovely descriptions, types all along the way. And this works with any service. You come in here and see Spotify. Maybe I want to search on Spotify or about me, or I'm kind of curious about this win-win-win mutation. It says all I do is win-win-win, and I like getting pumped, so I'll go ahead and import that. Once again, it'll prompt me to enable Spotify. And now I have execute Spotify win-win-win. Here, no variables. So searching for examples and pulling them into your library, seeing what's available is very, very easy, even for services that you have no experience with. Now, this also goes the other way. If you remember here, I have a fetch GitHub license query, and this will find some details about some license at MIT or ISC license on GitHub. And I might think that that's really useful either for the community or for someone else. So in that case, I can go ahead and run the operations share command, and this will look at my local operations inside of my project, and it'll say, which of these would you like to share with someone? And in this case, I want to share the license query. As a security precaution, it'll walk over the operation. It'll make sure that any hard-coded values it shows me in case there's an API key or something like that. And it will ask me, are you okay to share this? And this looks perfectly fine with me, so I'll go ahead and share this. And now anyone can run this graph import with this ID, and it will be imported directly inside of their library. However, if we search for that operation, you'll notice that if I look for license, there is nothing in here. And that's because whenever you share it, although other people can import it if they have the specific ID, it won't show up in canonical search results unless it has been approved by a Netlify Graph team member. However, you can go ahead and tell Netlify Graph that you're okay looking for unpublished examples, ones that are haven't been marked as approved. So now if we look for a license, we see there's both licenses and license query. And if I look at that, it has my description. And if I try to import this, it'll actually tell me that, hey, you actually already have an operation like this inside of your library, and there's a conflict, and you'll have to resolve that conflict locally before you're able to import this. So that's all the CLI work and the backend work, but we also would love to get that inside of this flow right here. So you could imagine that whenever you first come in and you enable something like Stripe, you might want to, before you start querying Stripe, to see some examples here that you could go ahead and just try out. Or if you are inside of a blank canvas for that, if we notice that you don't have any operations for a given service inside of this view, we go ahead and prompt you with maybe some examples that are already available for the service from the community provided library.